Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Bridge City News. Here are some of the top stories we've been following. Carney's new cabinet sworn in today, including one rookie MP from Alberta. Plus, 90% of government of Alberta unionized workers vote in favor of striking. And Lethbridge City Council publicly releases confidential documents related to Lethbridge and District exhibition and its loss of millions of dollars.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Jeanette Roche.
Thanks so much for joining us. Prime Minister Mark Carney conducted a major cabinet shakeup today. Carney has moved several players involved in Canada-U.S. relations into new positions and promoted some newly elected MPs to the front bench. Dominic LeBlanc will spearhead trade between Canada and the States in the wake of tariffs and threats of annexation. Anita Anand is the new Foreign Affairs Minister, and former Justice Minister Gary Anandan Sangari takes over public safety. Former Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly will take on the complex industry portfolio. Carney dropped Bill Blair from cabinet and named David McGuinty to the role of Defense Minister. His cabinet is made up of 28 full ministers and 10 secretaries of state. And according to Toronto Sun columnist Brian Lilley, many of the cabinet positions have been filled by unknown MPs.
24 new people are in cabinet. I just want people to let that sink in. This is massive. He dropped 11 people, and so we're with secretaries of state and full cabinet ministers. We're just under 40, but 24 new people. I'm still Googling some of them to figure out who they are and why they're in cabinet, and do they have any of the qualifications.
Catch that full interview with Brian Lilley, who gives more details on Prime Minister Mark Carney's new cabinet. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says Carney's cabinet certainly has a lot of familiar names from the Trudeau era.
Then there's Joly, LeBlanc, Haidu, Anand. Anand was the president of the Treasury Board, during which time the bureaucracy and the consultant bills blew out of control. In all, 14 Trudeau ministers are now in Carney's cabinet. It's more of the same when Canada needs real change. Even the new additions are problematic. Gregor Robertson was the mayor of Vancouver, who pushed for total legalization of hard drugs, distribution of tax-funded opioids. During his time there was a 600% increase in overdoses. Now he's the housing minister. Well, what's his record on housing? Well, he increased housing taxes in Vancouver by 141%, and the result was that housing costs went up by 149%, more than doubling the costs and giving Vancouver, his city, the most expensive housing prices in all of North America. Now, Mr. Carney puts this gentleman in charge of housing. If this is the new blood that Mr. Carney is bringing into the cabinet, then sadly for Canadians, nothing is going to change, and the role of the Conservative Party will be more important than ever.
Poilievre says if his party can make gains for the 8 million Canadians who voted for them, then they will do that without apology. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is already expressing concern about the new cabinet, particularly the new Environment Minister. For the last 4 years, Julie Debruzin served as the right hand to former Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault, who Smith calls a militant environmentalist. In a statement, Smith says Debruzin is a staunch advocate against oil sands expansion and a proponent of phasing out oil and gas. Smith says she's concerned that Alberta is being forced to contend with yet another keep it in the ground environment minister. She calls it a step in the wrong direction, but despite that, she says she'll continue to try to negotiate a fair deal for Alberta with the new Prime Minister. One of several rookie politicians who were named to Prime Minister Mark Carney's cabinet hails from Alberta's capital city. Edmonton Centre MP Eleanor Olszewski will serve as Minister of Emergency Management and Community Resilience, as well as the Minister responsible for Prairies Economic Development Canada. Olszewski has degrees in law and pharmaceuticals and is a first-time MP, having succeeded former Liberal Minister Randy Boissonnault in the riding. Olszewski Krzyzewski was born to a Polish prisoner of war who immigrated to Canada and served as an Army reservist and sessional university lecturer. 90% of the government of Alberta's unionized workers have voted in favor of strike action. That was the big news today from the Alberta Union of Provincial Employees, who held a news conference in Edmonton to announce the results of this historic strike vote by the majority of their 23,000 members who work for the province. This includes workers like nurses, ACERT officers, counselors, probation officers, sheriffs, peace officers, jail guards, occupational health and safety investigators, conservation officers, fish and wildlife, scientists. The list goes on and on and on. Union President Guy Smith says when recent negotiations with the provincial government hit an impasse, they felt they had no choice but to take a strike vote.
This was an historic vote, the first in our 106-year history as a union. And the results are compelling. 80% of our members participated in the vote, and 90.1% of them voted yes in favor of taking strike action. However, ultimately, it is our goal, and it is always our goal, to get a deal at the table. We do not want to have to use the clear strike mandate we have received, but we will if necessary. And our members can take confidence in knowing that we are fully ready and prepared to support them in the event of a strike. But in the meantime, we now have the full backing and support of the members, and we call upon the government to come back to the table and negotiate seriously towards a successful conclusion.
Smith says the majority of the bargaining was due to salary increases. AUPE served official notice of a strike vote back on April 16th when bargaining with the assistance of a mediator did not produce a satisfactory agreement. Guy Smith says he still believes a deal is achievable. Today in the Alberta legislature, MLAs elected Rick McIver as the 15th Speaker of the Legislative Assembly. The move came just hours after he resigned from his role as Municipal Affairs Minister. McIver won with a majority of votes over New Democrat MLA Heather Sweet, who was the only other MLA nominated for the role. As is tradition, McIver feigned resistance while being forcibly escorted to the Speaker's chair by Premier Danielle Smith and Opposition 11 House Leader Christina Gray. McIver takes over from Nathan Cooper, who resigned last week to take on a new role as Alberta's representative in Washington, D.C. The province of Alberta has unveiled a 10-year plan aimed at ending gender-based violence. Tanya Furr, Minister of Arts, Culture and Status of Women, says the strategy will focus on increasing awareness of what gender-based violence is and what Albertans should do when they see it. It also includes implementing early intervention strategies to prevent violence before it begins, as well as providing timely, culturally informed, accessible support for survivors, families, those at risk, perpetrators, and potential perpetrators, ensuring they receive the help they need in their own communities.
We're supporting Indigenous-led solutions by integrating Indigenous ways of knowing and being into the strategy. We're taking a culturally informed approach, integrating Indigenous-led solutions and perspectives to honor the unique needs of Indigenous families and communities. This supports a future with targeted, culturally appropriate programs developed in true collaboration with communities. Fourth, we are empowering women to be economically independent because we know one of the root causes why women return to unsafe situations is due to financial insecurity. We're promoting independence and workforce participation because we know that when women thrive, everyone benefits. We'll work to ensure women and their children are set up with the critical financial and social resources they need to live safely and build strong, independent lives. These actions aim for a future where women in Alberta have the resources required to leave high-risk situations.
Furr says this 10-year strategy will complement and enhance existing initiatives such as the Premier's Council on Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls and Two-Spirit Plus People, and the Human Trafficking Action Plan. A law firm recently won a significant court ruling related to COVID vaccinations. The plaintiff, Young Yi, sued her former employer, WestJet Airlines, and she won. She was terminated for not taking the COVID vaccine, even though she was working from home. According to her lawyer, James Kitchen of Kitchen Wells LPP, this case sets a precedent as it's the first court ruling of its kind in the country.
She asks WestJet for an accommodation, which the law says WestJet pretty much has to give unless they have a really good reason not to, called undue hardship, okay? And so what WestJet did, like, hundreds of employers did to tens of thousands of employees all across the country, is they said, we don't think you've triggered the legal requirement on our end to accommodate you, so we're not going to accommodate you, okay? And because of that, she was fired, right? Because at that point, WestJet said, well, you didn't comply with the policy, you didn't take the shot, you're fired. This happened all across the country. I've had dozens and dozens of cases like this, but this is the first one that I've got a decision from a court on. And what the court said was, one, she should have been accommodated, and had she been accommodated, she wouldn't have been fired, so terminating her for cause was unlawful because you terminated her only as a result of discriminating against her, right? This is what the court said to WestJet. In addition to that, it was still unlawful to terminate this woman for cause for not taking the shot because she was working from home and could have continued to work from home. And obviously at that point, it's not about safety. It's about ideology or control or power or whatever the heck it was. And so the court said, look, for both of these reasons, it was unlawful to terminate her with cause, and now you owe her the damages, which turned out in this case to be about $68,000, I think. So that's what WestJet has to pay her for the fact that they unlawfully terminated her for not taking the shot. This is the first court ruling on this in the country.
The city of Lethbridge has released details on the Lethbridge and District exhibition on Tuesday that were once held confidential. The order to release the 566-page document was given in January of 2024 in order to increase transparency with the community. The exhibition's Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center was completed in 2023 with funds from municipal, provincial, and federal governments. It was later revealed that the exhibition's board partook in mismanagement of funds and coughed up a multi-million-dollar deficit, leaving the city to take control of the exhibition. Mayor Blaine Higgins says having residents understand the decision-making process throughout the years will eventually build confidence and enjoyment of the facility once again.
Anything that is, we'll say, land, legal, or labor. So if there's a legal issue that's ongoing, of course, we don't want to have that in the community until it's dealt with, as well as another big part is labor. I have a lot of folks that are working over there, and we didn't want instability going through this as they're doing an incredible job and keeping that business running. And so we thought it's important to keep these things confidential until said time to re-release, which is now. I think the most important thing is get an understanding of what happened, what got us to the point that we got to here years ago when we saw, that there was some issues and there was a lack of funding to move forward, and the struggles that they were having, that the exhibition board. Now, I'm not saying that things aren't continuing moving forward, and if there's other stuff that comes forward, as a resolution posted, we will be transparent with that, and when the time is we're able, we'll bring that out as well. But no, this is pretty much everything that has come till date.
The full document can be found on the City of Lethbridge's website. A family has anonymously donated $1 million towards the Bringing Hearts Home campaign. The campaign's goal is to raise $30 million over 30 months to establish a proposed cardiac center of excellence at 2 Southern Alberta regional hospitals in Lethbridge and Medicine Hat. Crystal Elliott, CEO of the Chinook Regional Hospital Foundation, says she was astounded by the large donation.
One of the things that I've learned since we commenced this campaign in August, September of 2024, is that people are good. I have had the opportunity to experience the best in people and how much Southern Albertans want to contribute to this campaign. It matters to each and every one of us and those that we love. And people are demonstrating that. The donations are coming in. The momentum is real. We are building a movement.
This donation is the first $1 million donation to be announced so far, and Elliott says they are on track to reach their $30 million goal. The campaign began in September of 2024 and will run right through February of 2027. 4 Lethbridge police members were honored with King Charles III coronation medals for their contributions to community safety, well-being, and innovation. The medals were presented by Her Honor, the Honorable Selma Lakani, Lieutenant Governor of Alberta, to Deputy Chief Gerald Gromeyer, Sergeant Bill Basso, and civilians Catherine Pooley and Stefan Contre, who is now retired from police service. BCN caught up with some of the recipients to hear what led them to earn this honor.
One of the most outstanding features is my length of service, 36 years service. Within that period of time, I spent a significant amount of time in the forensic identification unit, both as a constable and then as a supervisor for several years. And more recently, I'm working with the Alberta Association Chiefs of Police on another committee in relation to the Police Review Committee, which will be overtaking the investigation of police complaints.
A few of the things that my team and I were able to do here in Lethbridge is look at analytics and data management to improve how officers actually respond to crime and how we can analyze that data to better serve our citizens. So a lot of that was innovative work, looking at things like artificial intelligence or advanced analytics that would allow us to pinpoint what our offenders might do and where we could try to prevent them from committing other crimes.
Some of the things they chose to highlight was the addition of a facility dog program. So dogs like Dogs with Wings Cruiser and Court, both of them are great additions to our service, and some work that's been done in terms of building collaboration in the community. We're able to continue offering a third option program for sexual assault survivors, which, because of funding challenges and funding cuts, the Amethyst project was removed from the community, but due to some quick collaboration and some wonderful partnerships that have been built up over the years, we're able to continue offering that program.
The Lethbridge Chamber of Commerce continues to look at ways to boost tourism, which in turn drives the local economy. Today at Lethbridge Airport, the Chamber held a panel discussion called Landing Prosperity to discuss tourism, transportation, and economic development in the region. The panel consisted of members from Tourism Lethbridge as well as WestJet, currently the only airline that serves the city. WestJet says there's demand coming in from Lethbridge, and it's continuously working with local representatives to improve services.
Really, we've focused on improving a network and improving our schedule reliability to make sure that there's efficiency and reliability into our schedule operating out of Lethbridge on a move forward basis. This is the part of the thing that we're trying to do is connect with the community to make sure that we get the awareness of the WestJet service, the understanding the connectivity that we have through our Calgary hub, and making sure that people are thinking to use air service as a first check before they're thinking of making any kind of drive up to Calgary. So really want to make sure that air service is first point of thought when they're making their travel decisions in and out of Lethbridge.
The Chamber says tourism and travel continue to play a key role in positioning Lethbridge as both a must-visit destination and a key driver of economic growth. 4 organizations are joining forces to welcome visitors to Lethbridge with the Blackfoot greeting Oki, meaning hello. The organizations are Helen Schuler Nature Center, Lethbridge Airport, Downtown Lethbridge Business Revitalization Zone, and McCain Foods. Corrine Putman, manager of Helen Schuler Nature Center, says an Oki sign in the park acknowledges that this site is part of the Blackfoot community's vast and extensive traditional territory.
We are so thankful to be one of the community partners in the most recent Oki signs that are popping up in Lethbridge. The River Valley is a really important opportunity for our community to come together on the land and to be together with the land. Each of the Oki signs in Lethbridge has a unique artist and a unique sort of flavor to the art piece. You know, the soil and the sun and the water that is reflected in the plants in this specific Oki not only welcomes people to this place, but also really grounds us in that acknowledgement of the traditional lands of the Blackfoot people, but also acknowledging the land.
The sign and the art on the sign really represent the interaction between both people and our plant relatives. And these are all plant relatives that we have harvested and lived beside. And just seeing Oki on things all across Blackfoot homelands really has that sense of whether being at home or returning home, but also it's a word with over 14,000 years of history in this place. And it really represents this sense of belonging, but also this sense of welcoming.
The City of Lethbridge encouraged residents and visitors to seek out the new Oki signs and engage with each of them in their new locations across the region. And speaking of which, it's a great time of year to get outside and find those signs. In the forecast today, we experienced a more mild but spring-like 15 degrees. We could see some showers this evening along with the risk of thunderstorm. I will be right back with the full 7-day and national forecast. Well, spring is in the air, and with that, a slight chance of showers expected on a Wednesday, but looking at a high of 20 degrees, so a little bit higher than average for this time of year. Also could expect some risk of thunderstorms both tonight and into Wednesday. As we look ahead to Thursday, mostly for the rest of the week, sticking in those teen temperatures, more around average for this time of year. Could see a 60% chance of showers on Thursday as well as that 14, and then high of 17 degrees on Friday with clear skies. Saturday, mainly cloudy skies, also 17, and then that 17 continuing on into Sunday, and that's when we'll see that return of 60% chance of showers again. And then Monday, ending out that 7-day forecast at a high of 19 degrees with a mix of sun and clouds. So the average high for this time of year, 18 degrees. Average low, 4 degrees. 27 was our high day on this, that was the record high on this day back in 1917, and the record low for this day was -6 that happened back in 1943. This morning, the sun rose at 5:49 a.m. and our sun set this evening right after 9 o'clock. So 9:07 p.m. We're seeing 4 minutes longer of daylight today than we did yesterday. So that means 15 hours and 18 minutes of daylight today. On the west coast tomorrow, 30% chance of showers, and then clearing up by the afternoon, high 15 in Victoria, 16 in Vancouver, 20 for the high in Edmonton, 30% chance of afternoon showers, risk of a thunderstorm, and showers also expected tomorrow in Calgary with a risk of a thunderstorm, high of 17 degrees. As we look to the rest of the prairies, there, Saskatoon should be seeing mainly sunny skies actually there. 20 degrees for the high Regina, seeing a 30% chance of showers, 19. 30 for the high in Winnipeg. Now, Winnipeg is still under that heat warning. That is still in effect, persisting right into Wednesday. They're also expecting some local smoke in Winnipeg due to those wildfires in the area, and 30 to 50 kilometer per hour winds for our friends there in Winnipeg. So lots going on. The rest of the country, you know, Ottawa, Toronto, both of those cities seeing chance of showers, risk of thunderstorms, high 20 in Toronto, 25 Ottawa, 28 for the high in Montreal. Tomorrow should be a lovely day with all that sunshine there. And then sunny right across the Maritimes tomorrow, 24 for the high in Fredericton, 21 Halifax, 19 in Charlottetown, and high of only 7 degrees in St. John's, but sunny skies and 20 to 40 K winds as well. So there you have it. That is your forecast. Honda Canada says the recent slowdown in the EV market has pushed the company to postpone a $15 billion electric vehicle investment project in Ontario. The postponement includes the proposed EV battery plant and retooled vehicle assembly facility. Honda Canada spokesman Ken Chiu says the pause will stand for approximately 2 years, while Honda continues to evaluate the timing and progression of market conditions. He says the decision will not impact any employees at the Honda manufacturing plant in Elliston, Ontario. British Columbia's Agriculture Ministry is urging ranchers and farmers to register the location of their livestock ahead of wildfire season. It says registering with Premises ID will ensure emergency responders have access to accurate information on livestock locations in the event of an emergency. That would allow emergency responders to act quickly during events such as evacuations or disease outbreaks. The ministry says registering for Premises ID is mandatory in British Columbia, but is both free and confidential. Currently, there are more than 10,000 ranchers and farmers registered. Now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was up 84 points on the day to finish at 25,616. The Dow was down 269 points to 42,140. The S&P 500 was up 42 to 5886, and the Nasdaq was up 301 points to finish at 19,010. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up $1.72 to 63.67 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 2 cents to 3.62 US. Gold was up $13.25 to 32.4998 US an ounce, and silver was up 34 cents to 32.90 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $8.79 per bushel. Barley is at $6.92. Canola is at $16.37, and corn is at $7.85 per bushel. Live cattle June contract was down 50 cents to $216.32. Feeder cattle were down 28 cents to $302.82. Lean hogs were up 25 cents to $90.98, and the Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours to 71.70 US.
Recapping one of our top stories today, Prime Minister Mark Carney conducted a major cabinet shakeup. Carney has moved several key players involved in Canada-U.S. relations into new positions and promoted some newly elected MPs to the front bench. Toronto Sun columnist Brian Lilley joins us to go over who remains, who was dropped, and who is new. That is coming right up next. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or our YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our stories and interviews. Prime Minister Mark Carney appointed his cabinet ministers today with a mix of change and continuity as former ministers were dropped and newly elected MPs were elevated. So to talk about this more is our political reporter and Toronto Sun columnist Brian Lilley, joining us from a lovely residential area in Hamilton, Ontario. Brian, welcome back to the show. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Okay, so Brian, before we get into the names here, give us the numbers. How many people are in? How many people are out?
24 new people are in cabinet. I just want people to let that sink in. This is massive. He dropped 11 people, and so we're with secretaries of state and full cabinet ministers. We're just under 40, but 24 new people. I'm still Googling some of them to figure out who they are and why they're in cabinet, and do they have any of the qualifications. So people like Bill Blair were dropped, and then people that you've never heard of are now in charge of major portfolios. We can get into that in a moment, but this is a major shakeup, and clearly a sign that Mark Carney wanted to send the message that this is not the same cast of characters. There are some, but this is not the same cast of characters that ran the Trudeau government.
Okay, so Brian, is there anything then in that appointment that should give hope or worry to residents of Alberta who are maybe looking for changes in how our natural resources are treated?
Both. So there's both hope and worry. Hope in that the new Minister of Energy and Natural Resources is a guy who comes from the business world. His name is Tim Hodgson, a longtime friend of Mark Carney. They worked together at various places, including they both had stints at Goldman Sachs, the international banking firm. Hodgson was an advisor to Mark Carney when he was governor of the Bank of Canada. He has extensive experience at the executive level in the private sector, sitting on boards, all kinds of, good, solid business experience. And so you might hope that that means they're going to take a more business approach towards the oil and gas sector, towards agriculture, towards the natural resources that Alberta, much of Western Canada, much of the country, quite frankly, relies upon. Jonathan Wilkinson was a true believer in Mark Carney's net zero vision. He was not the guy for the job, so Wilkinson's out, Tim Hodgson's in. I think, if you were to ask people in Alberta, either politically or in those sectors, they would say, we're hopeful, but let's wait and see. On the other side, Julie Desbruzen is the Liberal MP for Toronto Danforth. She's from the left wing of the Liberal Party, so the Environment Minister is now from downtown Toronto. And you can probably guess the types of positions that she's going to take, and that could really be a thorn in the side for the sectors that we were just talking about. Will she ease anything on the oil and gas sector? Will she be stricter? What about the fertilizer issue, the methane emissions from fertilizer that they were so hot to trot about a year or two ago and then backed off in the face of pressure? Both of those things, it seems like a yin and a yang here, a blessing and a curse at the same time. And so really the best that I can tell you is stay tuned.
Okay, then. Brian, let's talk about some of the big files that have had problematic issues for the Trudeau government in the past and whether Carney's appointments will solve these issues. So we're looking at what, Sean Fraser as justice? So is that good or bad?
I don't see anything good about Sean Fraser going to justice. This is the guy who broke the immigration system, was a disaster at housing, and now he's going to be in charge of the justice file. And some people will say, yeah, but he was a lawyer. He was a lawyer in Calgary, no less. Yeah, he worked at Blake's in Calgary. He, had a specialization in access to information. That's not exactly criminal justice. And we've got a real problem with criminal justice. Violent crime is up. The bail system is broken. Is he going to do the hard work that every premier in the country, including New Democrats in BC and Manitoba, Liberals in Newfoundland, and conservative-leaning premiers elsewhere have all asked for, which is fix the revolving door bail system so that these guys who are doing home invasions and carjackings and violent crimes. And we've got a story on the front page of the Toronto Sun today. Violent sexual assault, guys out on bail, commits again. Like, these guys just keep getting out on bail. Will Sean Fraser do that? I don't see it. And that's a real problem. You need someone in there who knows the justice system. Sean Fraser represents the same riding that Peter MacKay did in Central Nova in Nova Scotia. Peter MacKay was a Crown prosecutor before he became a politician. Sean Fraser worked for a cup of coffee doing administrative legal work and now is in charge of Canada's justice system.
Wow. Okay. Former Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland is back in cabinet, but with a much more subdued role. So are you able to tell us more about the significance of this appointment?
So she's staying in transportation, and it's interesting. Yesterday morning, and that's what Mark Carney had put her in his first cabinet, the 2-month cabinet that just expired with the new cabinet being sworn in today. So he kept her in after he won the leadership. And then yesterday, rumors started swirling that she may be out when the cabinet is revealed on Tuesday morning. And so all through the day, talking to different people, mostly Liberals, it was chatter after chatter about a diplomatic appointment. That Chrystia Freeland was going to resign as an MP and take a big appointment. And of course, there's no way that she could have gone to somewhere like Washington. Donald Trump even said he hated her while he was sitting next to Mark Carney last week. You've got the fact that she probably hates Donald Trump. So what are the big diplomatic posts? Was it going to be the United Nations in New York, the EU in Brussels, or London? And by the end of the day, lots of people were hearing that she's going to be in London. Turns out not true. Rumors and speculation abound at cabinet appointments. So she stays in transportation, which is a very important file, but it's not considered one of the top tier ones in Ottawa. In Washington, it is a top cabinet position. And right now, the American administration is dealing with revamping their air traffic control system, which is a disaster. And they're looking at perhaps adopting the Canadian model on that to update it. But so she's in charge of, air traffic control. She's in charge of cross-border transportation. She's in charge of the rail systems. Important job, but definitely a step down from Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Okay. Lena Diab is the new immigration minister. That's a big position there. So what can you tell us about her?
She's one of the ones that you're going to be Googling, unless you're from Nova Scotia, which is where she hails from. And she was in provincial politics for many years before jumping to the federal level in 2021. She is a lawyer as well. Her parents were immigrants. I can't actually tell from her bio if it was her parents or grandparents were immigrants from Lebanon. It says she's the children of first-generation Canadians, so I would assume her parents immigrated from Lebanon. she has that family understanding of the system, but this is one of the systems that is really broken in Canada that needs fixing. So this is a big job. Is she up for doing it? She's never held a job this big before. We just saw a news report that 25,000 foreign students claimed asylum last year. That's a record number, and we're on track to beat it this year. We've got in Toronto 9,000, almost 10,000 people a night being housed in the shelter system, and half of them are asylum claimants. We're bringing in 58,000 people. Outside of those students I mentioned, 58,000 people last year showing up at our land crossings, our marine crossings, at our airports, and declaring asylum. That's a decent sized city, 58,000 people. And on top of that, the full-time immigration system is broken. So this is a big job that's going to someone without much in the way of experience. To me, that's worrisome.
It looks like Bill Blair was also dropped from the Defense Department and from cabinet completely. And then David McGuinty, also after only spending a few weeks as public safety minister, takes over as defense now. So what does that tell us, Brian?
Well, as someone who has often fought, sometimes on live television, with Bill Blair, I'm not going to be sad at this one. Minister Blair and I don't know what it is. I appear to rub him the wrong way. And so he's out, but David McGuinty, I'm not going to, this is a good appointment. David McGuinty has been an MP for 21 years. He was a lawyer in real practice, unlike Sean Fraser. Before that, he is someone who knows his way around Parliament, knows how the system works. He chaired the Committee of Parliamentarians looking into national security issues, well respected. He's someone that if he'd been dropped from cabinet after only finally getting in Mark Carney's first cabinet of 2 months ago, I would have been disappointed. But this is a big step up to national defense, another area where we've got major problems. We've got a recruitment problem that needs fixed. There's the ongoing fallout of a couple of reports on sexual impropriety in the workplace within the Canadian Armed Forces. All of these things need fixed. David McGuinty, someone, despite not having that huge departmental role before, is someone that's been around long enough, knows how the system works, and I believe can get things done.
Okay. Melanie Jolie has been replaced at Foreign Affairs with Anita Anand. Is this a significant shift? Feels like it.
It's an interesting shift because Jolie goes over to industry, which had been, for many years, Francois-Philippe Champagne, who is Mark Carney's finance minister. In Ottawa, the people who run foreign affairs consider themselves the prince and princesses of the parliamentary or the Ottawa scene. They are it. They're the most important department in their view. So this is definitely a demotion for Melanie Jolie. In terms of change in policy, probably not. Melanie Jolie was taking Canada very clearly on one of the most important issues of the day, which is the war in the Middle East. She was taking Canada away from a position that was supportive of Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East, or at least neutral, to being supportive of Hamas in Gaza. Anita Anand is very much the same. She even gave speeches during the election campaign in her riding that said that she was moving in that direction. Mark Carney himself, I believe, even though he hasn't been as open about it, I think is headed in that direction. That is disturbing for me. On issues such as Ukraine, there won't be much of a difference. When it comes to the United States, hopefully she plays it slow and steady. We've got Minister Dominic LeBlanc, who's given that special charge of dealing with Canada-U.S. relations, so that's almost off and on's plate. So no change on Ukraine. Moving is towards Hamas and away from Israel in the war in the Middle East.
Oh, that's a huge change there. Okay, so Brian, switching gears here, the cost of housing and affordability it was a major issue during the election campaign, obviously. So what signal is the Prime Minister sending by appointing Gregor Robertson as Minister of Housing?
He's the former mayor of Vancouver who oversaw the housing prices in Vancouver skyrocket out of control. So I think he's sending the message that competence doesn't matter as much as celebrity, because he was a bit of a star celebrity candidate who did well for the Liberals in the Vancouver area, despite a dismal record. I don't think this is a good sign. You know, the federal government has the least responsibility for housing. The most responsibility is with your local municipality, which Gregor Robertson was in charge of and was disastrous on. Then it's the provincial government. Then it's the federal government. But the federal government has been trying to flex muscle, exert more control, move things forward. Are we really going to trust a guy who was overseeing the doubling of housing prices in Vancouver? Apparently so. And again, so this whole cabinet, I can objectively look at and say that's a good appointment, that's a bad appointment. This one falls squarely in the bad appointments category.
Okay, it looks like we're out of time here, but political reporter and Toronto Sun columnist Brian Lilly, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Poverty and hunger continue to be a serious problem in many nations around the globe. Now, thankfully, there are some amazing people in the world who are doing something about it, including some folks right here in Lethbridge. Joining us today is Dr. Daniel Zapula. He is the lead pastor of Mid-City Church here in Lethbridge, also an archbishop in the Communion of Evangelical Episcopal Churches, and the founder of Bridges of Hope. So good to have you with us, Daniel.
Hello, so good to be with you.
Always good to have you on. bridgesofhope.ca. Daniel, can you explain what your organization is all about?
Well, we Bridges of Hope is an international network of development agencies, and we connect with like-minded agencies in order to bring about profound change in the world, and in order to alleviate poverty and hunger.
Mm-hmm. So people come to you, right? I mean, and they get some help to get their charitable organization started, and there's probably a lot that goes into that. I mean, there's some government red tape typically that needs to be, done, and you also offer some leadership coaching and training in how to market their organization and how to raise funds. That's a big part of it, right? All this kind of stuff, helping people around the world takes money.
It does take lots of money, and indeed, what we do, again, we network with like-minded agencies. We do have many and various projects, and our we have a board of directors that oversees the organization as well, and we partner with churches, other NGOs, and then we have some people who they're just like-minded people who really have, some of them want to invest in a different area, in a specific area. Maybe say you are a foundation who want to invest in a particular area of the world, maybe South America, and so we network together to get there. And there are some organizations and some people who want our help to help them register their charity and so on. That too, I do spend a lot of time personally helping them, walk them through that, and coaching people in fundraising, simplifying fundraising, and teaching them how to raise funds, so we make fundraising simple, because every Canadian, every American, everyone around the world want to make a difference, and there is a way to collaborate and make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are some of the countries you're working in right now?
Like Canada is one thing. You heard about Youth One, and that's one.
Yeah, Youth One right here in Lethbridge. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and again, the youth, and then in Carlson we have something called Epics Youth. They see incredible amount, like hundreds of youth per week. They're fed and cared for. We help them integrate, and we create a healthy environment for them to connect with mentors. And we help them with their homework if they need homeworks, and some of them are just hungry. We feed them as well. In Brooks, we have another center there for youth. It's called OYO, One Youth Center. It's really incredible about providing mentorship for young people in that community, and our work is not just in Canada. Our work is also in the United States, and it is also, yeah, same thing, same program in the United States as well as in places like in West Africa, East Africa, Central, pretty much about 30 different countries that we have been able to network with and to touch. And we are seeing an incredible difference again. And recently, one of the I launched a new program called Healthy Child Africa. And Healthy Child Africa, the idea was to focus on ending hunger, because I believe poverty we will always have with us. It's nearly impossible to end poverty, and it's so relative.
Yeah, you kind of want to eliminate the extremes, if because you don't want to see people dying. But there's always going to be a need there, right? Jesus speaks of that, right? The poor you'll have with you always, right? In that sense. But it's up to us, though, to get involved and do something about it, right? So you mentioned a scarcity of food in some cases, or water, clean water, anyway. And so that's a very real need that needs to be met. And it probably goes deeper than that. There's of course, spiritual needs as well, right?
Absolutely, and that's it. Poverty it could be a multi-generational, multi-system. So we will have it with us. Like it could be spiritual poverty. Some people they impoverish when they impoverish in many ways. We believe, as a pastor, I believe when meeting Jesus, the way of Jesus is the best possible way of being and living and becoming. And I believe when people don't know the Lord, they do suffer. And it's something that there's so much liberty that comes when people meet Christ as their personal Savior. Where spiritual poverty can manifest in various forms. Obviously, when when people spiritually famished, they try to feed from all the wrong places. It could be religion, it could be the internet, it could be addiction, it can be all those forms. But in Christ, there is liberty, there is freedom that people get. But there is also a different form of poverty. For example, in families, we have impoverished more and more. Mom and dad are separated and not there for their kids. And we impoverish as a community, as a society. Spiritually, morally, politically, we're bankrupt. But there is something, and in poverty, we got to fight it. We know it will be here until Christ comes. But there is something that we can do. We can overcome and eliminate hunger. In fact, I believe it is immoral to not eliminate hunger in the world today. We have everything necessary to feed every child, every person in this world. It's immoral to not do so. And that's where I'm coming from when I'm talking about Healthy Child Africa. And that it's a time for us to begin feeding our kids. I remember growing up, and sometimes just going and going to in the side of a road when you're so desperate and see the food being sold there, maybe rice and beans. And sometimes, but for 27 cents, you can get that. So that's why
That's amazing. So you're saying 27 cents, like a day, you can feed a child in Africa?
No. I'm saying for a bowl of just rice and rice and beans, it's 27 cents that meal. So if I'm hungry, that's it. So, but imagine this. So Healthy Child Africa have been just created to be able to address precisely that, and that is, what if you can buy a meal for somebody for 27 cents? But just think about the concept. If we can use it, even though that term, I'm just using it, 27 cents, that means for $27, that's 100 meal.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. You think about, okay, maybe I won't go to the movie this week, and I'll instead, it's not that we can never go to movies and never eat out, but wow, that small amount makes it very doable. And you're thinking, I can do that. I can do more than that. So, where would people go, say right now, saying, okay, I want to help fight poverty, help fight hunger through what did you call it? Healthy Child?
Help a Child Africa. You go to Bridges of Hope and you just say, feed a child. It's just, and it will take you to the Healthy Child Africa. It's just on there, you can actually provide. It's $100. That's $27. That's 100 meal. What if in the next 4 months, many of us can decide, at least it's a campaign right now. I want to feed 1 million. I want to raise 1 million meals in the next 90 days. And that is if people can actually give us 1,000 meal, 10,000 meals, a business can actually help us. And even your channel can actually, it will be good if your channel can give us at least 1,000 meals. It's not that complicated, 27 cents a meal. And we get to feed people, and we got to also organize camps for them and help them find. Some of them we work with churches, our partner churches. Sometimes we can have Bible camps, in the summer for them. We can have a moment where people can gather and have fun together and be mentored through life's difficulty. The world is a dangerous and violent place, and I believe we can all make a difference.
Okay, check it out at Bridges of Hope, Healthy Child Africa. There's lots of different views on what causes poverty, kind of what's, the roots of so many of these issues here. How do you see it?
First, I think poverty is a business.
It's a business?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
I mean exactly that. It's a business. It's a profitable business. We gain a lot by keeping other people poor. Keeping other people dependent, and it's a power move. Sometimes we can end poverty. I want to say we can end hunger, but we can reduce poverty in the life of people. It's unbelievable. For example, just consider how much grain we pour out in the sea in order to manipulate the prices. Just think about that. Just think in our own street in Lethbridge, in Canada, no one in our city, basically, no one should be famished.
Right. Yeah. No, there's lots to go around. Yeah.
Be. Just think about it. But barely most Canadians, they said, I don't know if I got my stat right. They say for every dollar we make, most family make, they spent $1.15. That means they don't have it. Basically, it's a system. There is a system, and there is a system that is not kindful, family-centered, and I think the world, our politics, is really not about empowering people to become self-sufficient. And I believe there's something about our politics, our economy, that keeps a loss of people at bay. When I meet people, they all say, hey, we just, if you give a man a fish,
Right.
what do you know the saying?
Yeah, teach him how to fish, right? Give him a fishing rod and so forth. Equip him.
If you teach him, if you give him the equipment, he is going to go and he's going to be able to fish for himself. That is actually disgusting. That's not true. That's absolutely ridiculous statement.
Okay.
In fact, most people know how to fish. What most people just don't have access to the fishing pond. They don't have access to the pond. If I can teach you how to fish, but I can even give you the tool. Yeah,
so how do we get access? How do we get access to the fishing pond for people in parts of the world where it's a bit tougher than we have it here?
Yes, and so that's how do we do that? It's by creating opportunity, and that's why at Bridges of Hope, our story and our organization focuses on creating opportunity for all. And that is, hear this, in this country, we can go and borrow a little bit of money and do business. But around the world, for most people, they do not have access to capital.
Right.
If they do have access to capital, the fees and the interest rate is unbelievable. It's immoral. It's not 10%. Sometimes it's 20, 30, 40, 60%. That's immoral. That's what I'm saying. The whole poverty is a business, and it is working. And the powerful are feasting on the less powerful.
So how do you approach it then with Bridges of Hope? Are you doing microloans, that sort of thing, to empower people to start their own businesses?
Absolutely, and that's part of that's another opportunity. And so we believe that if we empower women and men to actually start their own business, they become less dependent on the system. They do not need to be colonized. They know how to fish. They know how to do it. And to empower them, you can provide them a microloan. They pay back, and you don't have to charge 68%. You can charge 10%. So if today you can loan our organization, say, $1 million, I'll pay it back.
Interesting. Wow.
We will loan it. We'll give it as loan to people, and they will start business, and they will pay you back.
I want to steer people to your website here. So thanks for sharing what you did here, Daniel. Dr. Daniel Zapula, our guest here again, president of Bridges of Hope. And I do encourage you to check out their website. You'll find a whole bunch of opportunities there for you to give an opportunity to somebody. bridgesofhope.ca. I'm Paul Arthur, and on behalf of all of us at Bridge City News, thanks for watching.